Typically, when it comes to most media properties, whether it be video games, TV shows, or movies, as long as those properties have some sort of quality to them, or sometimes even when they don't, a fandom is certain to pop up around it. And with a fandom comes fan works. I mean, what do you expect? It seems inevitable. Someone enjoys seeing a cool thing someone else made, so they decide to make something themselves that involves that cool thing somehow. Perhaps they'll take that derivative work and share it with the world, or at least with the groups of people that would actually care. Though perhaps it's just the kind of circles I find myself in, but I feel like fanworks have this sort of stigma around people who aren't as hyperfixated on the subject as you. This idea that fan games are lesser than official ones, for example. Perhaps it's just that some are in denial that Sonic Roboblast 2 really can be that good, or perhaps Nintendo has plans in all assets of society to make sure no one even thinks about violating their precious copyright. And especially when it comes to things like fan songs, fan animations, and fan comics, you'll probably hear the word cringe get thrown around at least a little bit. Not to say that these sorts of things can't be cringe, but it seems like just the term fan followed by anything else is assumed to be some 12-year-old slamming their keyboard with something hilariously awful. Now, I'd also like to say that in the past half decade or so, there's been a slow movement of acceptance of fanworks among the general public, or at least those who know what fanworks are. FNAF fan games are higher quality than ever, Minecraft parodies have returned, Deltarune is its own category of meme at this point, nature truly is healing. Though, I think there's still a ways to go until I can bring up Disbelief Papyrus to my parents and them going, oh yes, I can definitely understand this on a conceptual level. Again, this might just be me, and perhaps everyone in your city is keeping up with the latest Mario 64 ROM hacks, but I still feel like fanworks as a whole need a bit more time until they truly become mainstream. I mean, I have to be coming from somewhere here. Why else would I have found myself inside of a Google Doc? Really? There's not even anything in here, it's just blank! Out of all the different categories of fanworks, however, I'd say there is one that remains the most cringeworthy in the public eye today. Fanfiction. While all the other categories can technically count as fanfiction, I think you know what I'm talking about specifically. Stories written in text and typically posted online for readers to enjoy and YouTubers to make fun of. It's arguably the oldest type of fanwork out there, having existed for centuries, and then taking off into its modern form in the 1960s. But even today, the very few works of fanfiction that the average person might know by name are typically because of their infamy for some arbitrary record or exceptionally low quality. Parodies of fanfiction tropes and the authors behind them are often more well known than the original works themselves. But if you're familiar with this channel at all, you know that there's no one I enjoy making fun of more than myself. And assuming you've read the title of this video, you already know what I'm really going to be talking about today. Because to go along with all the plush skits and fan covers and calculator demake fan games, I've also contributed to a work of fanfiction. Just last year, in fact. And you can read it right now. But perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself here because the abomination that is the topic of this video was not made by me alone. That's right, this was a joint operation done between me and one of my close friends, NoFace Games.
Where am I?
You're inside an empty Google Doc.
Oh man, I knew this would happen. I should have paid more attention to that fortune teller. Anyways, what are we doing here?
Want to talk about Joshua Squared?
Okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Joshua Squared is a work of fanfiction written by Ray Dude and I of April 2025. Though while it is technically a Super Mario fanfiction, the actual story isn't as focused on Mario's world as most would be. It's really just about two Yoshis living on Earth alongside humans, you get the idea. There's crazy stuff happening, mostly because of one Yoshi, Joshua Squared. Joshua Squared is this bad to the bone, my way to highway character who plays by his own rules. He's an original character, OC, made to satirize the very nature of those cool characters that like bring an edgy, dark flair to the world around them. Like, shout out, it's kind of like those memes where someone adds their OC to an existing media. That's kind of the inspiration behind it. He's supposed to be this deep, brooding character, which you see a lot in the dialogue, but the world never seems to take him seriously. He's too cool for school, but school ended 3 hours ago.
Alright, a bit rambly there, but Joshua Squared is, at his core, a joke character. One made by NoFace is an extreme distortion of the name Yoshi, and as a parody of edgy OCs. The character has existed since early 2024, at least that's when he introduced it to me. And pretty early on, we had the idea of writing an actual story about him. Just like how Joshua Squared himself parodied edgy, over-the-top self-insert OCs, the story would have parodied the kinds of stories written about those OCs. Though we weren't really trying to directly mock genuine fan-made original characters as nothing but cringe children doing cringe things. Rather, we wanted to take the tropes that do often get made fun of and write a story where we turn them all up to the max. Why? Because it was funny. But at the time, we only really had the idea for an opening to the story, where Joshua Squared crashes his high school class reunion. This was my idea. I kinda wanted Joshua Squared's ridiculousness to exist in an otherwise ordinary world, and therefore the story to be narrated by an ordinary person. This would eventually lead to the idea for Norm, the second Yoshi that makes up the duo that the final story is centered around. Besides this initial concept though, Joshua Squared as a story didn't get much farther. We would keep joking over the next year or so about how eventually we would make a full story about him, but nothing really came.
That came April of 2025. Brady and I were on some sort of school trip. Since we had no electronics for like 2 days straight, they gave us too much free time. Like enough free time we were able to make the story, unfortunately. They also gave us a notebook and pen combo, so like you combine these two genius brains like Nikola Tesla and Einstein. So I'll kind of just sit there talking away, kind of like a modern day Socrates, just like giving all these words of wisdom, just really letting my brain cows get milked. That Ray would go along, he'd turn those words into something you can actually read. Because words without letters are... So this was written in like 2 days, obviously. So we really emptied the tank and kind of delivered a work. Can't call it a work of art per se, but it's definitely a work. That's for sure. So when it came to writing the story, it was pretty fun. We got to feel like the slight breeze in the air, the sun beaming down on us, and just two minds working together to truly create something we were proud of? So our pen actually died midway through, which is why if you actually look at the story on the notebook, it's in a different color, which is really funny, and we've tried to adapt that joke into every version of the story. The story is divided into 7 chapters, each chapter getting longer and more chaotic, though we titled all of them different ways to capitalize the word one. This whole process was as ridiculous as the story itself, which is pretty ridiculous.
By the time we were heading home, we had only finished 6 out of the 7 planned chapters. So the moment I got access to a computer, I transcribed the entire story from the notebook to a text document, and then wrote the final chapter after that, mostly on my own. In fact, as the scribe, I guess, NoFace actually gave me quite a bit of creative liberty for how scenes played out. Of course, he was in charge of the general sequence of events, and also decided the exact wording of whatever came out of Joshua Squared's mouth. This was his character after all. But for a lot of the dialogue, and even many of the jokes that didn't directly involve Joshua Squared, I had a lot more control. As stupid as the story was, I kinda wanted to try at least a bit at making it comprehensible, perhaps even entertaining. I tried making characters like Norm more than just a camera to record the events of the story. I even tried sneaking some sort of vague lesson about the need to respond to the unpredictability in our lives. Yes, I attempted to turn Joshua Squared into a metaphor. Did I do a good job? Probably not. I mean, I kind of only decided to try doing that like halfway through, so it ends up a bit clunky.
After the story was preserved in a digital file on our Google Doc, we started a new joke that we would eventually publish this. And if you're seeing this story, it's been published. Since we didn't really know how to publish it, since it was like a fanfiction, we wanted to put it on Archive of Our Own, which I'm gonna call from now on AO3. But just at the plans to write the story in the first place, it was supposed to be a whole joke. I mean, this whole story is a joke. If you read it, it's not good. It's not very good. But eventually, we ended up getting it published. But we were conflicted on whether or not we wanted to reveal ourselves as the author of this project.
Even if we were doing it as a joke, there was still kind of this level of embarrassment, I guess, of publishing this for the entire internet to see. So at first, we remained anonymous when we started publishing it soon after Christmas 2025.
It seems to have done Alright, I guess, I mean, you look at the stats, it got more likes than we expected, and more, definitely more than deserved. So we decided, hold on, we're honoring ourselves. And that's why you're watching this video right now. So now you can read the worst fan fiction ever written.
Perhaps we should say a bit about the story itself. Though I kind of don't want to spoil the whole thing because it would be really funny if you actually had to read it. The story is not that long overall, only being about 6,000 words. It should take about 30 or so minutes if you include the time you have to spend between chapters staring at a wall to contemplate what your eyes were just a witness to. But to summarize, Joshua Squared follows Norm L, yes, that's his name, who's just some normal Yoshi in a world where Yoshis are normal. There are no other elements from the Super Mario series present in this story, and the existence of Yoshis in what is otherwise a carbon copy of our world is never really acknowledged. Just try not to think about the historical implications. So Norm is just your average guy attending the funeral of Joshua Squared. That is, until Joshua Squared crashes his own funeral, kidnaps Norm, and takes him on a journey through the most dangerous place on Earth, New Hampshire. Along the way, the pair get into a bar fight, a highway shootout, and a rooftop showdown, all to defeat Joshua Squared's evil arch nemesis, Society, who is responsible for keying Joshua Squared's car, allegedly. What a riveting tale of adversity and camaraderie. Except for the fact that Norm is not having fun most of the time and is constantly confused as to what's going on. Also, Joshua Squared has a registered firearm on him. Wait, is it registered?
No.
Okay, so it's actually an unregistered firearm, my bad.
So throughout the story, Joshua Squared's presence just seems to cause things to happen. Funeral goers spontaneously combust, crowds of lawyers manifest into existence, money falls into elevators, you get the works. He has an obsession over the song Scotty Doesn't Know, and so do I. And Norm seems to be the only one who really questions anything that's happening in this world. Though he never seems to get an answer, only receiving a classic Joshua Square line of response. We got beautiful quotes such as, "The weirdest things in life are the choices you make." That's deep. That's deep. And gummy worms are the future of America.
So, that's about it, I think. This was a summary of our absolutely life-changing story as well as how it came to be. And now that we've revealed ourselves as the authors, we invite you to experience the horrors of Joshua Squared for yourself via the link in the description. Even though it was written with the intention of being stupid, it's honestly still pretty entertaining. A good amount of the jokes are actually funny, and I'm not just saying that because I wrote most of them.
They're funny because I told them what to write.
Nuh-uh.
Yes, it is.
Nuh-uh.
Mhm.
Nuh-uh.
Uh-huh,
Nuh-uh.
uh-huh,
Nuh-uh.
uh-huh.
Anyways, despite how silly this whole thing is, we both had a lot of fun making it. And I suppose that's really what making fan works is about, having fun. Because fan games, songs, fiction, and everything else are, at their core, labors of love to the original property. I think it's beautiful that one person's creation can move someone else to make even more out of it, and to share it with their fellow fans and beyond, all for free. And I'm really glad that fanworks have become more and more accepted over time, no matter how much stupid drama tends to shut down half of all projects. So Joshua Squared may be the dumbest fanfiction of all time, but I don't regret joining NoFace Games and bringing it into existence. And perhaps if you have an idea of your own for a fan project, go ahead and make that project. Create a new text document, download that game creation engine, open up your go-to music making app, grab a pencil, and show why you're a fan of the things you love. And maybe just a little bit of cringe along the way is a good thing. Just make sure you're not a creep or an overly demanding person to work with, or someone who leaks the work of other fan projects, or someone who gets caught saying slurs online, or someone who tries to monetize when you don't own the copyright of the property, or someone that dares to have their Nintendo fan game get popular, or be susceptible to burnout, or be susceptible to burnout, or be susceptible to burnout, or be susceptible to burnout.
Dude,
Yeah?
since we're both trapped in this Google Doc, I have a confession to make. I am very susceptible to burnout.
Oh, really? Me too!
Yeah!